Hi, and welcome to the Unashamedly Human podcast, a podcast created to help you get out of your head and into your life. That is, if you want to have more fun, freedom, happiness, peace of mind, and success whilst squeezing the juice out of every area of your life. Join Jackie Ford every Thursday and listen in to her warm Scottish tones, wise heart, and wonderful sense of humour as she interviews guests and discusses what it means to be unashamedly human.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Unashamedly Human podcast. It's been a minute. I keep starting podcasts and then I sort of get involved in life and family and being a grandmother and, sort of decorating our new house and making plans and really enjoying life. So I'm really sorry I keep going away and enjoying my life and forgetting to record the podcast. I had an experience about a month ago during the Edinburgh Festival. I was out with my husband, and you can see my guest laughing. I was out with my husband and my daughter and my 3-year-old granddaughter and my 1-year-old grandson. And the babies just love going on the bus. So we were on the number 8 bus. I remember it very clearly. We were on the number 8 bus and we were going to the museum. And at the bus stop, where we were just about to get off the bus, I'm standing waiting to get off the bus. And this soul came down the stairs, and without even a thought, I went, "Hello, you." And this person looked at me as though I just spat in her face, basically. And she went, "Do you know me?" I went, yeah, I do. She says, "What's my name?" Now, I'm a postmenopausal woman. Putting me on the spot to tell me, "What is your name's?" Not a good idea, just as I'm trying to coordinate my grandchildren off the bus as well. And I said, "Look, I don't know. I can't remember. I just can't remember, but I know that I know you." And we got off the bus and she's like, "Can you remember my name? Do you know? Can you remember?" And I was like, "No, I can't. I'm really sorry. And I got home and I laughed with it. I laughed with it with my husband and my daughters, and I was like, "This is hysterical," because I know this woman. And I got home and I got my phone. I went, "It's Debra. Debra's been a Facebook friend for God knows how many years. We've been at the same conferences and meetings and goodness knows what else. So we've met." And it was just one of those moments. And so I messaged Debra and I said, "It was you. It was me." I said, "And my soul spoke to you, because normally I wouldn't say anything. I just go, I think I'm that person. And it just came out and it was so effusive, kind of like, 'Oh, hello, you.'" Wasn't it?
Well, it was hilarious. I think that's kind of what threw me, because you spoke to me as if we had spoken earlier on this morning, as if we were in conversation all the time, best friends, knew each other really well. It was kind of, and I'm like, "Who you are?" And it was so out of context. And I was in Scotland visiting. My eldest daughter lives in Scotland. I live in North Devon, and my eldest daughter lives in Edinburgh. And we were on the bus, going in
The same bus.
The same bus, obviously. And I came down the stairs, and this lady, with grandchildren of this, not the Jackie Ford who I know, who doesn't, she's there with the children and grandchildren, and sort of said, like this. I'm like, "No, you." It was so funny. And it's hilarious that I never thought to say, "What is your name?" or to tell you what my name was.
You probably thought I was a performer in the Fringe Festival.
Off the bus, and my daughter said to me, "Who is it? Do you know her?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I know her." And I kind of would turn around and stick, but I don't want to stare at you. It was so funny. And then, we laughed about it for a little while, and I went home and just completely forgot about it, didn't think anything. And then when I got your text message, when I got your message, and it says, "That was you, wasn't it?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." And then it sort of all fell into place, but it was hilarious. It's such a funny story.
It so is. It was lovely, and that is kind of the way I speak to people. you know, I don't see any barriers. I don't see, you know, it's kind of like, you know, I'm here. Hiya, how you doing? You know, I guess maybe just years of working with the public, you know, that it just, you just how you show up. Anyway, it cracked me up. And when I told my daughter, she was laughing as well. So
Yeah, I was with my partner and my daughter, and they thought it was hilarious that, you know,
uh-huh.
this person, obviously they saw you, they saw what happened, and for quite some time, you know, even over lunch and later, they kept saying, "Have you got any idea who that lady is yet? Have you thought of who it is?"
No, just some strange performer from the Fringe Festival. Don't worry about her, you know. Anywho, you guys all know who I am, so let me introduce you to Debra. Now, Debra is head of happiness at Dare to Be You, and Dare to Be You is all about knowing who you really are, both as a spiritual being, but also as a human, which, you know, is my jam as well. And about finding, you know, sort of that lovely balance between there to be able to consciously create your best life. And a life that you amaze yourself with. I love that. You know, a life where you spend yourself constantly in awe and like, oh God, look, that happened. This is amazing. You know, and Deborah says this kind of more or less describes her life. And she's been working in this field with the principals for over 10 years, and she prides herself in actually walking the walk, not just talking about it. And it's really, really interesting to me, Deborah, because you can absolutely tell when somebody is living their truth, because that's what you're talking about here, is living your truth and living it on a daily basis. Now, Deborah's story involves escaping from an abusive relationship and turning her life around and helping her children find their happy place in spite of all they've been through, which that just fills my heart. And, you know, for her building a really successful business, it's given her a deep grounding. And she knows the best ways to help other people who have dreams that kind of seem that they're never working out, or they have a spiritual awakening and then they find themselves back in the thick of what got them searching in the first place, because we all know that spiritual awakenings are not the sunshine and roses and glitter moment of one's life. They can be really murky and quite difficult and dark as well. So Deborah loves what she does. She doesn't love meeting people on the number 8 bus in Edinburgh, but she absolutely loves what she does. And she loves playing and deepening our own knowing about who she is. And our latest project is one that's called Field of Dreams. And she's buying a piece of land and building her dream home on that land. And it's really lovely to hear that this is becoming possible for you and you're stepping towards it day by day. Now, I will put all of Deborah's details in the blurb with this podcast, and I'll also give you some details if you ever wish to say hello to Deborah. Don't do what I do. I'll give you step-by-step instructions of how to approach her quietly with a photograph with your name on it, so she knows who you are.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're never going to let me forget this, are you?
No, because it's funny. It's just really funny. It was so funny for me too. I mean, it really, really was. Deborah, you know, sort of, you say you've been on a journey sort of the past 10 years.
Definitely.
Yeah. Have you always been searching? Did you always know there was something, or was it just you just came across the principles? What happened?
Yes, I was not a searcher. No, that wasn't my path. I had been in this relationship which was incredibly unhealthy, and now when I look at it, I can see my part in that. I can see that relationship could not, with who I was being, with who I was showing up as, that couldn't have been anything different. And so to me, what I see there is we were both victims of insecurity, believing the thinking that we were having, believing that was how the world worked and what we needed to do, and we were stuck. I got out of that relationship. Things got so bad and violent, and it was actually something that happened with one of my children, and I had to leave. I was told the social services would take my son so I ended up in a refuge. And it was kind of then I found myself with my two daughters. One of my daughters lived with my sister by that time, because I had sent her away because it wasn't safe. I didn't leave the relationship, I sent my daughter away, but there you go. And my other daughter it was getting increasingly dangerous for her to be at home, and my son was struggling at school. So I found myself then with my son, who was 9 years old at the time, and my daughter, who was a teenager. She was 16, 17, and I just had no idea how to parent my children. They had lost all respect, they saw me as a waste of space, which was, quite true, to be fair. It wasn't a bad, it pretty much was who I was being. And my elder daughter, we always had a good relationship, but again, I hadn't been there for her as a mom in a way that now that I can see I would have liked to have been. So we were in a mess. So it was at that point that I was looking for, how on earth do I parent these 3 broken children? Who am I? What do I do? How do you do this life? I'd been in this relationship for over 20 years, and it was like the person that I was when I got into this relationship. One of the things that had been very prominent on this relationship was that you don't change. What you liked the first day I met you, you still like now. What you did, so I hadn't grown up. I hadn't had the space. I had never explored who I was. What do I like? What colors do I like? What foods do I like? I liked the color that I liked then. I liked the food that I liked. So I hadn't grown up or changed or any of those kinds of things. So it was at that point, and I don't think it wasn't so much that I was thinking there was something else or exploring spirituality or any of that kind of thing. It was just like, I don't know what words we're allowed to say on this podcast. It was just like, oh my gosh.
Everything, anything, unashamedly human.
It was like, what do I do now? Have no idea. So I was looking just for help to live. How the hell do I do this? And I came across Jamie Smart, and it was just at that moment, Jamie Smart was moving away from the NLP stuff that he was doing and moving into the principles, and he was just talking about it and putting some stuff out there. And I just heard he put something out, and I just listened to this thing, and quite literally what happened to me was I fell on the floor and started to cry, because what I heard in this thing was, your children aren't broken. And I hadn't realized how heavily for many years, I think, I had been carrying this. All I had ever wanted, my dreams for my life had always been, as a young child, I've got an exercise book from when I was a kid. I think I was about 11 when I first went to secondary school, and I wrote, I'm going to have children, and I wrote the name Gemma Kate, and my eldest daughter is Gemma Kate. So I wanted children. I wanted a relationship and children. That's what I wanted. And I was kind of like, you have messed everything up that you ever wanted, and you haven't got these 3 happy children. You have got 3 very messed up kids. And I was really, really, really ashamed, deeply ashamed, hated myself. And I hadn't realized until I heard those words just how heavily I was carrying that shame and that disgust for myself. And I heard a little bit like when you saw me on the bus and you kind of saw something, and then it's like, what? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Who is she? I don't know. It was a little, in that moment, I saw the okayness in everything, but it was a sort of a fleeting moment. The moment that I had, something shifted and changed in me, but then what was it? How, like when I said, well, what's my name? You're like,
was it, they call that, it's a glimmer. A glimmer is the latest phrase for it.
Yes, I would say it was that. I saw something and could not unsee it. And for a few weeks, quite a few people thought I'd gone a bit mad, because I kept saying, everything's okay, it's okay, it's all right, it doesn't matter what happened, you're all right and I'm all right. And then it would be like, well, what about this, and what about this, and what about this, and what about this? And I would just get completely stuck, because I had no idea how to implement, how to answer those questions. But this happened, Mom, but this was, and then I was stuck. But every time, as soon as I kind of maybe went to sleep or whatever, this feeling of, this is okay, would come back. And I guess it was at that point, if you say that would be the point that I became a searcher, I think. Then it was like, right, what is this within me, that no matter, when they come and say, yeah, but do you not remember when this happened, do you not remember this abuse, do you not remember this day, do you not remember that happened? And then I would be stuck in that, well, yes, I do. And obviously you're going to be damaged from that. And obviously, yeah, there will be repercussions and blah, blah, blah. And then I would, I don't know, go away, go to sleep or something. And this knowing within me that the truth was we were all okay, and that was made up, would come back. But I couldn't put it into words. I didn't know how, I didn't know why, I didn't know why that was making sense. When at the outside world and everybody else was kind of telling me the opposite, I didn't know why this kept making sense to me. So it was then that I was determined to find out, okay, what was it Jamie was talking about? What are these principles? What is within me? What is within all of us? And yeah, ever since then, I have been deepening my understanding of that, learning how to articulate it, learning how to share that and help other people make sense of that truth that they have within them. So we can be unashamedly human. I can be unashamedly human now. And I do have moments of shame.
Don't we all? I mean, your story is so heartfelt. I could really feel. I could feel your journey, and I love that. But the knowing that you had and have is very strong too. That. Yes. The fact that you could go to sleep and sort of, it's almost like that factory reset we talk about, isn't it? Like we're tired, and when the world doesn't see things the way we see them, because we've had this kind of glimpse or glimmer on an insight that says, no, life works differently than the way I thought it did. And when we're having to sort of try to rationalize it, but we don't have the words yet, that's tiring, it's exhausting. And it's easy to get lost back in that, isn't it? That feeling of, well, maybe it isn't right. Maybe that's not what this is, And I love the way you explained it by saying, I just went to sleep, and then the knowing came back through me that said, no, we are okay. That just so beautifully explains our humanity. That we're not machines. Yes. We're not machines. We get tired, and when we get tired, it's so easy for us to drop into a lower state of mind. And when we're in that lower state of mind, we have a habit to have more of a propensity to believe what we're thinking.
Absolutely. And over the years, I have had the opposite experience too. Like when sometimes I will have a good day and I will think everything's okay, and then I will go to sleep, and for some reason my thinking seems to churn up, and
cortisol.
And then it will feel, I might wake up almost having a panic attack and feeling things aren't okay. And I know a lot of my clients that I speak to have that experience too, and it's like, yeah, that happens. And what I have also seen through being on this journey and looking is understanding what is going on there makes that I probably, I haven't got your background, and cortisol wouldn't have come to me, but it's like, yeah, your thinking can do that to you. All of this stuff that is coming in, all of these, the things we're bombarded all the time with. Life works outside in, life works outside in, life works outside in, and we have these glimpses and we have this knowing, but also it can be overwhelmed. It can feel, whatever it is, it churns up something in me, and sometimes my thinking can go on a rampage, and I can feel that I have lost that connection to that glimpse. But what I really, really, really love, I think, is, and this is very much, what I speak to my clients about, and where I try to take people, is just to find out within you, I have my words, and I have things that I know that bring me back, and I have things, there are certain words I can say to myself, and things that I know that when my thinking goes on one of those rampages, that I can kind of bring myself back, if you like, or know, even the knowing that I'm going to come back. But all of those, so it is like seeing, okay, what is it? And this to me is where the principles comes in. What is it that underpins all this? And to me, one of the things I know is I couldn't have had any of the experiences in my life that I've had, the terrible ones, the ones, or the ones that I really didn't enjoy when I was in them, the ones that I feel ashamed about when I look back on, the ones, any of those, or the fantastic ones, those first moments when I held each of my children in my arms, when I looked at them, those moments when I found out that I was pregnant, those, fantastic things, amazing things, moments in my business, moments when clients have sent me things and said, my whole life has changed. None of them, I couldn't have had any of those experiences if life did not work the way that it did. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I know the good and the bad is me working perfectly. It's very easy to think when our thinking is overwhelming us, or we're in a bad situation, or we've messed up our circumstances, whatever, it's very easy to feel ashamed and to feel that we are broken or have done something wrong. But what underpins this is, no, you work perfectly. Because if you didn't work perfectly, you couldn't screw it up. If you didn't work perfectly, you couldn't create this beautiful stuff you're creating. Mm-hmm. All of it points me back to how perfectly I work. Mm-hmm. And that is always helpful to me to come back to. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to feel this. You wouldn't be able to dislike that person, or not want that, or to have said that, or to have sent that stupid email that you should never have sent if it didn't work perfectly.
Absolutely, Deborah. And again, you're speaking my jam completely here. That it's so important that the more, to me, it's especially women, because we're the primary caregivers, and most of us, because of our parents and our grandparents, how they were brought up during wars and tough times, that they didn't have the information that we've got now. Information that I would love to have had in my 20s, but I didn't have it. It wasn't available to me. That, I don't know whether, I know you will be like me. Like, the minute my daughter had her children, the grandbabies, that was another time of transformation for me, because that's the point where my daughter changed from maiden to mother, and I changed from mother to maven or crone, or whatever you want to say. I don't know, it was just a label, I don't really care. But that was a really interesting time for me. It was quite a dark time, because it brought up lots of emotions, lots of unprocessed emotions, lots of things in my childhood and in my growing up that I'd never processed. I just hadn't at the time. I just so bloody busy. I just hadn't processed these things. And I've always had a habit of trying to process alone, rather than trying to process with other people. That was just me. And yeah, some people go, Jackie, that's a fond trauma. I'll go, yeah, maybe it was. I really don't care. I had a great childhood, blah, blah, blah. We all have our quirks. But with my daughter, she's reparenting herself through the birth of her child. And our relationship, I'm reparenting our relationship as she reparents her child. And oh my God, Deborah, it's wonderful. The conversations, they're so raw and they're so honest, and things that I would have said, that my mother had said, that I would have said to my kids, I'd never dream of saying that to my grandchild. Things that where you wouldn't automatically go, that's shameful. You're putting shame on, like if, for example, like if the wee one, when she was toilet training, had a pee-pee, and had a wee accident, I'm like, oh, it's not a problem, hun, don't worry, that's okay, everybody has accidents, it's not a big deal. Or she's climbing all over me and she accidentally, makes my nose bleed or something. I'm like, it's okay, hun, don't worry about it, not a problem. Whereas I remember my mother being angry with me when I did these things. I remember her blaming me. I had a urinary tract infection. We were on holiday in Butlins and I was 8. I remember her blaming me for ruining the holiday. It's just, you know, but I can look back on that and go, oh my God, Mum, you should never have done that. What was that about? What were you going through, love? You
Yes, yeah,
know?
that's the point, isn't it? That is the
Ah,
point. It's
yeah,
that was their learnt behavior, if you like, to
exactly.
shame. And I think that's, you know, I can see the same when I look at my grandmother and my mum, and then my mum and how she parented me, and exactly the same. You know, it really, I watch my daughter parent her children, and definitely there was a moment in me of actual jealousy, actually, of kind of seeing, look what you have available to you, look what I know that I can help you with. And it was kind of like, my mum, my parents loved me and I had a good childhood, but when I look exactly, you know, the resources and what my mum had to give me were not, you know, it was like, yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself for thinking that or doing that or being that person. You know, you have to be. And I know, you know, one of the things that I can see that set me on the path that I took, and this is no blame to my mum whatsoever, but and I know, you know, anyone who knows me, I've shared this story, but looking back, I can see me and my mum are polar opposites. We are very different people. I am very outgoing. You know, I am the happiest when I'm on a stage with a microphone. That's my happy place.
Yeah, you're definitely my soul sister. Who doesn't speak to me in buses, but never mind.
That would like be, you know, if you said to my mom, do you want me to stick pins in your eyes or do you want to stand on the stage with a microphone? She'd go, pins, give me, you know, that would be her worst nightmare. So from a very young age, she was trying to protect me from things that in her world would be horrific, but things in my world I wanted to do and I wanted to be. And I am like my grandma on my dad's side. And she didn't get on with my you know, typical daughter-in-law mother-in-law relationship. And from a very young age, I heard her talking to people and saying she didn't like my grandma. And I also, everybody in the family, I am my grandma reincarnate. My grandma has gone now, but you know, I am her. And so I managed to put two and two together inside my head and decide that my mom doesn't like my grandma. I am like my grandma, therefore my mom doesn't like me. Therefore,
so innocent, isn't
so innocent
it?
on all sides, all sides. You know, I can see my innocence in this. I can see her innocence. You know, these were overheard conversations that she clearly needed to get out of her system because she was struggling with things. And you know, it's true, I am like my grandma. She wasn't saying it, you know, and everybody told me that, and it's true, I can see it. I'm now very proud to be like my grandma. My grandma was an incredibly strong woman, ahead of her time now when I look you know, at who she was. But I then decided that I could not be me, because I'm clearly not good enough, and because my mom doesn't love me, and I'm being things that I have no business being. And so that was my story, which is why my business is called Dare to Be You, because I can see the damage that I did to myself deliberately. You know, every intuitive thought, every nudge, everything that I had within me to be me, I either ignored or deliberately did the opposite, because I was trying my hardest not to be this person that I shouldn't be. And you know, we are all unique human beings. You know, we have this place within us where we are all the same. The principles, what underpins this is oneness, is that. But then we all have our unique things to do out in the world. And you know, if we don't within ourselves nurture that uniqueness, and you know, I know still one of my tendencies can be, you know, I'll be on here, oh, I need to be more like Jackie, oh, I need to be more like Jackie. I go, oh, I shouldn't think. And it's like, no be you. Yes, we can be soul sisters. Yes, you have a lot of things that are the same. Yes, do it, but remember to be you. You are perfect.
Absolutely. I remember writing a blog about that years ago, Deborah, and it's like, you know, when I was starting to write blogs, I wanted to sound like Michael Neal and I wanted to sound like Elsie Spittle. And no matter, I just couldn't, because whenever I did it, it just sounded like me. And you know, people would write to me and they go, Jackie, please don't take this the wrong way, but I love your blogs because they're so ordinary. And I was like, well, why would I be upset about that? Because that's how I see this understanding. It's the most practical spiritual understanding I've ever experienced in my life. And after years, I had years of searching, Deborah. I was the woman that was on every bloody course and had every book, and despite Amazon not being around. And, I think a lot of the times I felt I could just inhale the book without reading it, and, something would happen to me and I'd change. But I spent a lot of money. So when I came across the principles, which I did way before I knew they were the principles, because I came across Richard Carlson's work, and didn't understand that him and his father had actually studied with Sid, and then that's when they wrote Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Yeah.
And it was Judy Banks that told me that, Sid's wife. And then, sort of later on when I did hear about Sid, and I heard him speaking, I went, oh my God, he sounds like my dad and his brothers round the fire at Christmas time after a few drinks, just chilled and laid back and shooting the breeze about life. And I felt like I was home, and I loved that. There was just this ordinariness about how we work as human beings that is so available to us now with the internet, with Instagram and TikTok and, everything. It's just like, oh my God, you guys who are in this generation don't realize how lucky you are that, if you choose it wisely, the information is there and it's just off the chart. I've learned so much.
Me too.
Oh my God,
it is amazing what is available out there.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
And it's this whole thing about everybody's a student and everybody's a teacher. So I'm so glad you said what you said. Like nobody's any better than any of us because we're all unique. We're all the same. We're all unique. And that's what makes it important to find your teacher or your coach at the stage of the journey that you're on, because it's a journey. Oh my God, it's not a one and done thing. It's a journey. So you're going to go through evolution after evolution after evolution, and you're in for a fantastic ride. And learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable is one of the best gifts you can actually give yourself throughout this journey. So it sounds like in your journey, Deborah, you're helping people from all kind of walks of life settle into the knowing of who they really are underneath who they think they are.
To me, I think that is the bit that changes everything. It's kind of like when I came across the principles for a little while, I really, really, really studied the principles and kind of threw everything else out, if you like. But I could see that was a part of the journey, something that I needed to do. And then I got clear what they, I don't mean I know it all, because we absolutely don't. But I had enough of a grasp and enough of an understanding and something with enough within me. And then I very much went and started to look at a lot of other spiritual things and all sorts of everything. But to me, it's like, it's that underpinning when we can continue to come back. And the word God works incredibly well for me. I'm not religious, and it's not, to me, I think it's a shame that a lot of people have, it feels like religion owns God, so we can't, the minute we hear that word, it's lumped in with that. But that word works well for me, inner being, source of all, whatever. But the knowing of that, if everything that you are doing is underpinned with that, and this is what I see about the whole creation side of it and what I'm up to now, it's kind of like, okay, I know that, and I can continue to come back to that. And when going out here and does all this, it gets scary. And to me, it's a little bit like, I watch my grandchildren, I take them to the park and they know I'm there and they go wild. They go all and they go down the slide and they go on the thing and it's, Grandma, look at me doing this, and look, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. And I am there. They're not afraid of what they're doing because they're going to come back to their mom or their grandma. They're going to come back home when they've done this. And to me, it's a similar thing, you know, this understanding. It's like, yeah, I can come back to you. I get to play at being human. I get to create stuff. I get to, you know, I have these desires within me. And I don't think that is a mistake either. You know, when I look back at what I did to myself, all of my desires and all of my pulls and all of those things, I ignored them. But now, you know, I'm the polar opposite to that. It's like anything, yeah, I'm there. If that's what I'm being pulled in this moment, then go for it, do it. Because we get to play in this, the best playground. It's unbelievable, the playground that we have got here. And underpinning this playground is this safety, is home, is God, is love, whatever, you know, the principles, whatever it looks. And to me, so long as we have enough, and sometimes we know that, you know, it's not, oh, you have to know the principles, or what is that for you? Find the words, find the feeling, find something in you that underpinning is. Because if you have got that, and to me, that is what, you know, when you see people who have got everything supposedly from outside, you know, they've got the perfect partner, they've got money, they've got the house, they've got the whatever, they've got all these things, and they're unhappy. It's because they haven't got that thing that underpins it all.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have this thing that underpins it all, and I think one of the things that is missing, and definitely something I am interested in, which is why I love the creation side of things, is I feel like the message, whether you know, how I got this message or how it was, and I see this and especially women, it's like, well, you can have either or. You can have this underpinning, or you can have a really nice house and partner and money. You can't, or whatever your dream is, but you can't have this, and you can't be spiritual and have human stuff, have money and be happy in the human realm. You're either going to have this or this. And more and more and more, you know, my thing is, no, we don't live in a yes, this, not this. We live a yes, this, and this world. Like, there's nothing held back from us. When we understand this underpinning, why would anything be held back from us?
Mm-hmm.
If we have a desire within us and a pull to do something, to have something, to be something, then there is no way, you know, that desire comes from this underpinning. So why is it going to kind of give you, it would be like you saying to your children, you know, here you go, have something really nice to eat. No, you can't have it. I'm not going to give it you. It's like, it makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
So these desires, these things that we want to create, we are called to create them because, yeah, play, create. You absolutely have within you. And to me, those two things, and this is what I mean about the balance between them. Yeah, go create what you are called to create from a knowing of who you are, because it will be the best fun you will ever have.
Mm. My youngest daughter has watched me all my life. I've lived my life that way, Deborah. If I've wanted to do something, I've just gone and done it. I've always been that way. And it has not made sense to other people, but it's always made sense to me. Mm-hmm. And my husband says, oh, Jackie's away to faff again, because I'm away faffing. I'm doing my thing. Because I just know it's good for me. It's taken me all over the world. It's taken me to all sorts of strange places, both in Scotland and elsewhere. And my youngest daughter, who's doing a PhD in creative writing at the moment, she's writing about Alistair Gray, who's a famous Scottish writer, there's a movie of one of his books coming out that's winning all sorts of awards in Venice at the moment. And her PhD is all about him. And she sat on the couch the other day there and she said, Mum, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I said, really? And she says, I'm a wee bit worried. And I just said to her, are you worried about something that hasn't happened yet? Or are you worried because you think you should be worried? And she just laughed. And I said to her, I've never met anybody in my life, Lauren, who has lived from her knowing the way you live from your knowing. As a child in Edinburgh Gymnastics Club, 6 years old, she says, Mum, she'd only been doing it 6 months, Mum, I'm going to win the cup and beat this girl who was like been doing it for years. I was like, okay, hun, you do that. She did it. Played basketball for Scotland, MVP, European MVP, most valuable player, you name it, you know, named after again and again and again. Amazing. Because she created that in her mind. She wanted that.
Yeah.
She didn't study for her hires the way she was meant to study for her hires to get into university. And she kept dropping subjects like flies because she says, I only need these 2 subjects, Mum. That's all I need to be able to get in. And she kept dropping them and dropping them. I'm like, I trusted her. I'm like, I trust you because I know you. I know how you work. You know, I know it doesn't make sense to your teachers. I know they're all calling me and giving me crap about this, but I know you and I trust you. So she was to pass her maths. That was the one she had to pass to get into university. And she was a nightmare with it. She really was, Debra. But I kept going back to my knowing about her. She'll be fine. Yeah. This will work out. I know it'll work out for her. I don't need to be worried. This will be okay. And she went on holiday with her friends, you know, the 6-year holiday. They all went away, and she phones me from somewhere in Europe, and she's like, guess who's going to university then? She got her maths higher. I was crying with happiness and with relief. But she always knew. And so I reminded her of all of this, and I said, hun, you know better than anybody else does.
Yeah.
You decide and have an intent for something, it works out. Trust that. I said, I love that you know you don't want a 9-to-5 job, you don't want to work in an office. I went, oh my God, to have that strength and conviction to know that's not who you are. I said, that's huge. So I know you're going to be okay. You just have to trust you're going to be okay too.
I just love that. And what I also love about that is how, you know, the variety, like your daughter, you said you've always lived that way, and your daughter has always lived that way. And what I see is fantastic, what amazing role models. But what I also want to say is I never lived that way till, you know, I've been learning to lean into that since 2011, since I came across this understanding. So what I see is the enormous hope. You know, if people are listening to this and thinking, oh, well, I didn't start when I was 6 years old. It's like, so what? Start when you're 60, start when you're 70, start today. You know, there's one best time. There are 2 best times to start something: when you're first born and now, you know, and whichever you're at. So, and my daughter, I have a beautiful story about my second daughter, my middle child. She wanted to be an author. And this was, I've got 2 grandchildren. My oldest grandson, he's 4, and then I've got a granddaughter who's 2. So when my grandson, when she was at home with him when he was tiny, she just started having these ideas for writing, and she'd never written before, and she just had this idea to write a book. And so I just said to her, well, just write it. And so she started, this writing was just flowing through her, and she just started writing this book. And then obviously she started looking into it, and she's like, I want to be a published author, and I want to be a traditionally published author. So I'm kind of on my journey and all of this. And by now she's trusting me and trusting the things that I'm sharing. So I'm saying to her, okay, we'll set that intention. That's what you're going to do then, if that is what is coming through you. And, you know, she was on writers groups, and they're all saying, she go, oh, Mom, well, maybe I'll have to self-publish. Maybe I said, what do you want? What are you called? I said, there is nothing wrong with self-publishing. There's nothing wrong with any of how you do this. What is your calling on this? And she's like, I want to be a traditionally published author with my first book. I said, well, be that then. Do that. I said, if that is your calling, do that. Know that's possible. And so, you know, we had lots of amazing conversations, and guess what? she is a traditionally published author. She is writing her second book. Her first book has published and has done incredibly well. And she's now writing her second book with the same publisher are backing her to do this. She's got a book deal, she can carry on writing. And I think sometimes we forget the amazingness of who we are and what we have done and what we have achieved in these ways. It's like, yeah. And it looks, when something like that has happened for us, to us, through us, whatever it is, it looks and feels so ordinary to us, because it's now who we are, who we have become, and who we are is so familiar and ordinary to us that we don't think twice about it. But all of these things bring us to new dimensions of who we are and what is possible for us. And I just, I'm amazed by her and blown away by what she has achieved and what I know she is going to continue to achieve. And I see that is true, whether we realize this years ago and we've been living this way forever, or whether you're hearing this and thinking, wow, is that possible for me because I have never lived that way? Absolutely yes. This is who we are. This is what, when we lean into those nudges, that truth, what we're called to do, it's amazing what we create.
Absolutely. And I know you're probably like me as well, that you work with women who there are areas of life where they follow these nudges, don't question them, but then they have other areas of their life where they don't, and they second guess themselves, and it's because they think that's different, and that cracks me up all the time, as though that's a completely different thing and the principles don't apply here. You're like, well,
maybe they do.
They do. It's no different. No, that's really lovely. It's lovely that it's lovely to hear your journey and to hear how you're helping other people in the world, Deborah, because it's so important, that voices are heard, and whether you're doing it formally, informally, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're speaking your truth and that you're sharing your knowing in whatever way feels right for you to share it. So I am grateful that you're in this world and that you're doing what you're doing. I really, really am. I love it. Thank you. And
I am grateful for number 8 buses.
Me too. It's been lovely to actually, to have that giggle with you and, sort of to recognise our own humanity in that moment. And how we're not good putting a spot. If only I reached out with my phone. Deborah, you've been an absolute joy to have on the Unashamedly Human podcast. And before we go, is there anything that you're working on at the moment that you want to share with everybody that
Well, the thing we didn't get to speak about it, but that's fine, is the field of dreams. And that fits into perfectly exactly what you were saying at the end there, where we have these areas where we trust ourselves. And then I think we have areas where not so much. We second guess ourselves and think, it doesn't work here. And for me, definitely the field of dreams, what I'm up to at the moment is my kind of foray into that, if you like, because there are like around relationships, other people, all of those kinds of things. I am really clear how this works. And then I had this desire to buy a plot of land and build a house, and it was like, you're crazy, you're mad, stop, do not do that. And I hadn't realized how long I had that. It was actually only the other day I was speaking to a friend, and I talked about what I was doing, and she said, oh yeah, I remember you saying that over 10 years ago. And I was like, wow, has it been that long that I've actually had this desire? But anyway, so the long and short of it is, I decided, right, okay, go with this, follow these nudges and do this. And alongside what I'm doing with the field of dreams, I have no idea. Actually, as we stand at the moment, when I first saw the plot of land that I am buying, there was no way. I did not have the money to buy it. I did not have the resources. I didn't have anything. And over a year later, that plot of land was still on the market, which in and of itself, well, I know the reason why it was, because that land was always mine from the very second. It's actually a huge, great agricultural barn that I want to convert into a home for me and my partner. And I'm now in the process of buying that land. So as we're speaking here, anytime in the next month or two, that land will belong to me. And the next thing that I want to do is build my home on there. And at this point, it doesn't look like I have the resources, the money, the wherewithal to do that. And I am going to do it. And alongside that, you know, I'm inviting people to subscribe to my YouTube channel to follow my journey, because I'm going to be talking about that from every perspective. And along with that, I'm doing things like I'm starting a creative circle. If people want to get involved in the energy behind creation, you know, how we do this, and there will be various other offerings alongside that you know, I'm going to be talking about. So come find out about the Field of Dreams if you want to see. As I said, at this moment, yeah, it looks like the land is going to belong to me at some point in the near future, and I have zero idea how I'm going to build the house there. And that's it. You know, this is real-time creation. What happens? So
With all its ups and downs and twists and turns and everything. I remember yeah, that's beautiful. And as I said, all of that information will be in the blurb at the bottom of the podcast. I remember when Jerry and I moved out of Edinburgh, when all the girls went to uni, Debra, and we moved from a home we'd lived in for 16 years. And when the kids all left, we actually upsized, you know, sort of to a house with 5 beds, sea views, 1.5 acres. And we had the best adventure of a lifetime there. We really, really did. We were there during COVID. I had a sailor tan. I've never had a sailor tan in my life. I've never even had a tan in my life. But, you know, we were just meant to be there. And I remember saying to my husband one day, I was going up the stairs in that house, and I just heard this whisper, "You're here to heal and be healed." That's what that house was for me. It was part of my journey, you know, and people don't understand why now I live in a Georgian ground floor apartment in Edinburgh, in the new town, which is the complete opposite of what we had, because this is where I'm meant to be now. And you just, that's just it. You know, you just know.
Yeah.
And I love that you know.
Yeah, that's it. This is what, and I also know that this journey is to be shared. I know that, you know, this part of my journey is to be shared as it is unfolding.
That's gorgeous. Okay, everybody, thank you for listening to the Unashamedly Human podcast. Please follow Debra and find out more about the Field of Dreams. That would be an absolute joy. I know that I certainly will be finding out all about that and keeping in touch with her. And continue to listen to the Unashamedly Human podcast and subscribe to my YouTube channel and to the podcast itself to get the fresh episodes. And also, we've been talking about the school for some time. It's going under a bit of a rehaul at the moment. And the new launch date for the Unashamedly Human School in its new format will be November. So if you haven't already signed up for the waitlist, or you haven't signed up to hear about the pre-launch webinars, please do, because it's an intention that I set years ago to do this, but to do it my way and to do it in a way that made sense to me, using everything that I know about life, health, psychology, spirituality, all coming into the one space. So it's very different to any of the schools that are out there at the moment. So lots of love to you, Debra, lots of love to the family, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you very much.
Bye.